Welcome to Anti-Fiction. This is a weekly nonfiction podcast where each week I, Christian Yates, select a topic, and then I invite two guest hosts to come and talk about stories related to that topic. This week, my guest hosts are Patrick Taylor.
Hello.
Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's been so long.
And Andy Mattingly.
Hello.
Hey, welcome back to the program. It's been literally like a week.
Something like that.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Our topic today is based on a true story.
Wait. Oh, we're doing based on a true story.
Yeah, that's
that was a joke because I was supposed to be in the original possessions.
So this is like a little bit different topic than we've done like in the past because it's a little bit like, I don't know, I feel like it's a little less accessible, right? So basically what the idea behind this topic is we picked a movie or a book or a TV show or something like that that says it was based on a true story or true events or whatever. And then we are going to tell the actual story that movie or book or TV show or whatever is based on. So I picked the Battle of Los Angeles. Yes. So there are actually two movies that were made out of this event. Steven Spielberg in 1979 released a movie called 1941, which is a like satire film based on this event. And then in 2011, we had the wonderful Aaron Eckhart sci-fi military thriller Battle LA, which was it was medium.
Not even.
Patrick has a lot to say about this.
Just the fact that you're doing a based on a true story. The Battle LA
Yes.
is based on a true story.
Yes.
It's literally killing me.
Listen, I went into this story with like a different angle than I ended up actually doing because like there are a lot of like it was aliens to it, right? But like I started out.
Was it aliens?
Listen, I started out with that angle, but then I actually like read more into the story, and it's just a ridiculous fucking story. So here's the story of the Battle of Los Angeles. February 24th, 1942. This is less than 3 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Right? Less than 3 months later, alarms were raised in Los Angeles, California, with naval intelligence warning of an attack that was expected to take place in the next 10 hours. So the fear was that it was like basically Pearl Harbor Part 2. They were moving to the American West Coast, and they were going to attack Los Angeles. So alarms were raised, and a large number of flares and blinking lights were seen in the vicinity of defense plants. Los Angeles County was placed on a total blackout, and air raid sirens sounded starting at 2 a.m. On February 25th. So just before 3 a.m., a Coast Guard artillery colonel spotted 25 planes flying at 12,000 feet. He said that specifically. He counted 25 planes in the sky flying at 12,000 feet.
Yikes.
And a half an hour later,
How high is 12,000? Is that close?
I wasn't going to question it. I was just going to
that
say
is
somebody
like what,
would
just over 2 miles?
It's like bombing height.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, it probably means if it's specific like that, he probably just knows, like, that's how high it is.
Yeah.
To him.
Yeah.
Just by looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a military colonel, right? So,
yeah.
Like, I'm sure that
I don't know these things, but I'm going to guess that he does.
He literally has received the training.
But I guess that's like 2 miles up, right? So.
Yeah, a little over 2 miles, yeah.
It's really close.
Yeah. So that's
you could like jump up and touch
that's
it.
like attack height. That's
Yeah. 2 miles isn't long.
Yeah. So a half an hour after he sees these planes, 25 of them, the 37th Coast Guard Artillery Brigade began firing 50 caliber machine guns and anti-aircraft guns over the city of Los Angeles.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
What?
So over the next hour, they fired 1,440 shells before the all clear was given at 7 a.m.
Holy shit.
Yeah. 1,400 shells they fired over the city of Los Angeles.
Over the city of Los Angeles.
In an hour. In 1 hour.
Just into the sky?
Just into the sky.
Because there were 25
Because there were 25 planes
Did it take an
spotted.
hour to fly over Los Angeles? Like, how long did it take
Apparently
to
at
fly over
that
Los
speed
Angeles?
and that height.
Excellent question.
I'm not a plane
Uh,
person, but
Oh, sorry. I had something else to
I'm not
say.
a plane
It's gone
person.
now.
I'm
though.
not a
Okay.
person
I don't know.
person.
Hey, if it comes back to you, let me know. During the barrage.
I know what I was
Yes.
going to say. Those have to come back down.
They do. They
Oh.
explode in the sky.
yeah,
Like that's the idea between anti-aircraft behind
Oh, okay.
anti-aircraft guns is that it's like it doesn't necessarily explode on impact, right? It just
it blows up
and
in
then
the
boom,
air.
and then
Yeah.
the fragments can take
Fall
care
down,
of.
right?
Correct. Yes.
Onto the Los
Well,
Angeles.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
if
is
there's,
that where- is
if
that
there's
where
not
this is going?
25
Let me-
planes there, then yes.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But
Wait,
also,
and
if
also,
there are
what if the
25
planes there?
planes,
Yeah, now it's not bullet fragments,
it's now
planes.
falling
Yes.
onto LA.
Correct.
I just feel like
yes.
we could have thought
That's
this.
what that song was about. It's raining men.
Hallelujah. So during the barrage, several buildings and vehicles were destroyed or damaged
Oh yeah,
by shell fragments,
several. That's generous.
and 5 civilians
didn't
died.
Five
5
people
civilians.
died.
5 civilians.
This guy
not
killed
God.
not
five-
military.
Right.
This guy killed 5 people
Yes.
because he saw 25 planes in
Right.
the air.
Correct.
Oh my
I did air
God.
quotes,
Now
by the
they
way.
died as an indirect result of they weren't actually killed by the shell fragments. 3 of them were killed in car accidents during the chaos. And then
Holy shit.
2 people died of heart attacks attributed to the stress of the hour of firing over the
Yeah.
city of Los Angeles.
I fucking believe that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So here's the thing. According to the Japanese government, they released this statement after the war. They said that during the war, no planes were flown over the city of Los Angeles. They did not fly one single plane during the war at all over the city of Los Angeles.
How long had that guy stayed awake? That's my
Right.
next question.
That's not a bad question.
That's an excellent. I don't have an answer to that.
No, I mean like
Well,
that.
let's get someone on the phone.
Right. Let me.
All right, caller number 1.
So, hours after the all clear had been given, the Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, declared that that the incident was a false alarm caused by war nerves.
Yeah. Well,
That's what
that's
happens
what
when
we're
you
saying.
Right.
That's what happens when you
Us
stay awake for so
regular
long.
20-somethings are like, yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
To be fair, it was 3 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor. 3 months.
Yeah,
like,
but to be fair, he saw
conceivably,
25 planes,
He-
not one.
Yes. The guy said, "I see 25 planes." Like he had to have been counting,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a very specific number. Even if he was estimating.
What if he counted
But
clouds?
you know what, and I just want to say, we live next to the Air Force Base.
Yes.
I know what one plane sounds like, and it's fucking loud and annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So 25 of them that close.
Yes.
And he was the only
Right.
one that saw it.
Yeah, and
heard it.
and that they were flying in a V formation. Like he noted
You
the
would
formation.
just know.
That's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's super clouds.
Other
Right.
people would have.
It was probably geese. like,
Oh,
like,
no.
let's be honest.
1, 2, 3. Oh my God!
Oh god,
No.
there's 25 of them in a V formation.
I mean, that would
Now
actually-
it was dark. It was night. It was 2 a.m. when
You can see planes at night.
Yes.
What?
Oh, no, you can't, but-
and he noted flares and blinking lights. So they probably weren't geese, but
I'm sorry.
That's when like the 3 guys that were playing with like the flares go.
Right.
We were
no.
not doing anything.
so statements were also made that the perceived attack could have been a form of psychological warfare, with the enemy using commercial planes to send the military into a panic, possibly in order to locate American defenses along the coast.
Sneaky.
Yeah, right? Here's the thing. Commercial planes. If they were commercial planes,
Oh, yeah.
then now the military is firing on commercial aircraft, regardless of who was piloting them. They
Yeah.
were like, maybe it was Japanese forces that hijacked commercial flights. And I'm
War
like, you're
nerves.
still firing
War
on commercial
nerves.
aircraft.
This is going to be
now.
the silly question I asked today,
Yes.
but those look different than military
do.
planes, right? Okay,
They
okay,
do.
okay. I
They're
just wanted to make
supposed
sure.
to.
Yeah.
That's
so,
like that's kind of the whole idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I was just gonna say, like, I've seen planes, right, coming out of the Air Force base or like around or whatever, and I've never confused it for a commercial.
Well, the thing is too is like we're in 1942, so planes can look similar in the sense.
And that is true.
I guess, that's
especially
a good point.
during the war, a lot of like bombers, like large bombers, they might look like commercial planes.
But also, they didn't say bombers; they said planes.
That is true.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going with the geese theory, though.
Right. And especially since they assumed that probably it was like the Japanese attacking, like their planes were much smaller.
Oh, yeah. They were tiny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because they just crash into you. And you're like, fuck you.
The press had a fucking field day.
Oh, fucking yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Many suspected some form of cover-up. The Long Beach Independent wrote...
That's what they were upset about? They thought it was a cover-up?
Wait,
what kind of cover-up?
Right, so they...
Sorry, hold on.
Like, they say it was a false
finish.
alarm caused by war nerves, and that maybe the enemy had hijacked commercial flights or something. But the fact that the military just fired...
Okay, so they are upset with the military.
Correct,
okay.
yeah. And they think that the military is now, like, trying to be like, false alarm, like, whatever. Like,
we didn't shoot down aliens?
Basically, they thought that the government wasn't telling the whole story.
Is that why the movie is about aliens?
Correct, yeah. That's one of the theories. So, the Long Beach Independent wrote, quote, "There is a mysterious reticence about the whole affair, and it appears that some form of censorship is trying to halt discussion on the matter." California Representative Leland Ford called for a congressional investigation, saying, quote, "None of the explanations so far offered removed the episode from the category of complete mystification. This was either a practice raid or a raid to throw a scare into 2 million people, or a mistaken identity raid, or a raid to lay political foundation to take away Southern California's war industries."
So many different kinds of raids.
Yeah. So, either they were just, like, doing practice shooting, or they were just trying to, like, make Los Angeles think that, like, the military was protecting them.
Why would they do that? I mean, just very clearly they were like, oh, man.
To spur patriotism.
Yeah. What? Hi, welcome to 2018, where nationalism is now a big thing, too.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, like, to spur patriotism.
Yeah.
It just seems so counterproductive.
If you scared 2 million people in Los Angeles into thinking that possibly there was an attack about to happen on the city you lived in,
but
you, as a male 18 to 34, are going to be like, I'm enlisting right the fuck now.
That's fucking shady.
Yeah.
Also,
when you think you can stop being surprised, and then you're like,
let's not take away. We were also imprisoning Japanese citizens.
Yeah.
Also true.
In California.
Yeah.
Yep. So it could have just been a see something, say something tactic that was very loud and hurt too many people.
But war nerves.
War nerves.
Yeah. So the Washington Post said that the commercial planes theory explained everything except, and this is my favorite, it explained everything except where the planes came from, whither they were going, and why no American planes were sent in pursuit of them. So basically, it explains nothing.
We had enough guns to shoot them down. Why would we need planes?
Right. It'd be like that.
It'd be like that sometimes.
You don't always think it'd be like that, but it do. So a photo published in the Los Angeles Times has long since been cited by UFOologists as evidence of an alien visitation.
Oh my God!
Right?
Look, we're in 2018. Anything's possible. They already did confirm aliens.
I just don't.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
What? Okay, you can't have both. It can't be fear mongering and aliens.
No. It was one or the other.
Patrick's like, actually,
it was maybe aliens that we mistook for Japanese warplanes, and so the photo seems to show spotlights on an alien spaceship. However, that photo was touched up for publication, which was a standard practice at the time because you had to get, like, to improve the black and white contrast, you had to touch up the photo. So the touch-up...
While you're there, you just add in a UFO.
Well, the touch-up made it look like it was a UFO.
Oh, okay. So it looks like a UFO after the touch-up.
They didn't intend for it to.
Whatever.
But it looks like a fucking UFO in this touch-up photo. So it's like... Like, they definitely, like, highlight the lights and, like, try to make the shape better or whatever, and, like, it ends up making it look like a goddamn flying saucer.
Killing.
So here's the actual most likely scenario. At 1 a.m. on the night in question, a weather balloon had been sent up over Santa Monica. So like the military used weather balloons.
I think you mean 25 weather balloons in the shape of planes in a V formation.
So they send up this weather balloon. And the military mistakes it for 25 planes in a V formation flying at 12,000 feet. In 1949, the United States Coast Artillery Association published an account of the air raid in Los Angeles and attributed the entire event to a poorly timed weather balloon, which was mistaken for a German or Japanese Zeppelin, and when combined with the already tense nerves of wartime, caused the Coast Guard to take action.
They can't blame that on the weather balloon.
Right.
That's not the weather balloon's fault. They're putting a lot of blame on that weather balloon.
So basically, they send up the weather balloon, and this Coast Guard official is like, what the fuck is that? And everybody tried to explain it's probably just a weather balloon that our troops over Santa Monica have sent up to like check out what weather conditions are going to look like. And he's like, I'm not having it. I'm not taking the risk. Fire.
For an hour.
Well, and once shooting started, everybody joined in, and they just kept firing, and imagination created more targets in the sky. Because by that point, you saw, flares going up from other defensive positions, and so you're like, what the fuck is that? So you fire on it, and then you see the shell fragments falling from the other shells, so they're like, what the fuck is that?
Hey,
fire.
we hit one of the planes, obviously, because that's not shell fragments.
Yeah. So that is what they think is 100% the cause. At any rate, whatever the cause was, literally the biggest military blunder in history. Literally, listen, this is my show. The biggest military blunder in history.
We're not to question Christian's facts.
Maybe until the time. We'll say that. Until 1942. Yeah. It was, at that time, probably the biggest military mistake to have happened.
Because, what happened to the 25 planes?
What? Right? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Where did they come from?
They were all owned by Cotton Eye Joe.
Cotton Eye Joe. So it is interesting to note, because when I did start looking into this, obviously, I had seen the movie Battle LA, which is about aliens. It's the theory about aliens. So that's what I went into this initially looking for. Rihanna's not in that movie. You're thinking of Battleship.
What?
Came out the same year. I completely understand. One's based on a Hasbro game. One's based on a story
that also had aliens in it.
What?
Yeah, Battleship.
It doesn't matter.
I don't watch it.
So
you don't want to get me started on Battleship. It's awful.
So when I started looking into it, I was looking into it for the alien side of it. And then when I actually read what happened, I was like, they're just a bunch of idiots. Bunch of idiots in uniforms firing at geese,
so it's
or a weather balloon.
It's like the end of The Abyss, where you're like, it's fucking aliens? Oh, this is lame.
Right. But it is interesting to note for any UFOologists out there that the weather balloon theory, that it was a weather balloon that caused this, does link to the story of Roswell, New Mexico, where the crashed UFO was reported by the military to just be a weather balloon. So it is interesting to note that those events only happened 5 years apart and separated by about 200 miles. Well, no, I guess a little bit further than 200 miles, maybe 400 miles.
Are you implying that the weather balloon crashed in
No, what I'm saying is
5 years later?
What I'm saying is it's interesting that when the military is talking about an event that people think is aliens,
they use the excuse twice. Okay,
they use the excuse twice. It is interesting to know. I should maybe go back and try and find some other instances where people are like, it's UFOs, and the military's like, it's a fucking weather balloon. Chill.
All of the ufologists are sitting there going, yes, you're on the edge, you're right on the edge, come to us.
Holy shit, we never even made this connection.
No, they're all sitting there like, this is the beginning, yes, come to us.
Open your third eye.
Do it. You're almost there.
The truth is out there.
Hey, I believe.
But so that's my story. that is the story of the Great Air Raid of 1942, the Battle of Los Angeles.
I just want to know how stories like this can exist, but I'm not allowed to make fun of the military.
No, you can. I just did it for like 15 minutes.
I mean, yeah, it's really fun to play.
You definitely can.
It really that story is just the biggest way of saying, dude, you fucked up, and now we have to clean up your mess.
Right.
But you're such a colonel that we can't be like, sorry, this colonel is not a good colonel because America.
Well, listen, he made one mistake in his 30-year career.
That's literally the same argument for a lot of deplorable people.
Hey, well, listen, he was just following orders.
Oh, God, why?
If you don't stop.
So anyways, that's my story. Andy, do you have a story that you'd like to share with us today?
I always want to say no when you ask me like that, but I do.
I'm glad because that's what I asked.
So I'm doing the sorry. So I'm gonna do the story that the movie Veronica is based on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know that our Spooktober month is over.
What is the movie?
It's never
Veronica?
over for me. It's this amazing movie.
It is
really
actually pretty good.
It's a very good movie. I actually watched it twice in 2 days because I watched it by myself and then I made Christian watch it with me again the next day because I wanted to talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's on Netflix. It is it's in Spanish though.
That's completely fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
there are subtitles. So.
Yeah, there's subtitles, but you got to know that.
Some
people don't.
I can read fast. So.
Yeah, some people don't like subtitles, so then I guess that it's not a movie for them if they don't speak Spanish.
Just
but
like Spanish. Why'd you learn Spanish? I didn't want to read the subtitles for the movie Veronica.
Yeah, but it's worth it to spend some time learning Spanish. Okay, so the actual story is okay. I'm going to talk about the movie first for a little bit. So in the movie, Veronica is like 15 or 16. I mean, she's real young. And she and two of her friends sneak into the basement of their school while everybody else is outside looking at an eclipse. And they, fuck around with a Ouija board like teenagers do.
Right, as you do.
Yeah.
First problem.
But then, some shit gets wild. And so, they're using, a little glass piece as, the marker. And it explodes and, hurts everybody except for Veronica. But then it scares everybody but Veronica, so they jump back, and so she gets cut with it, and so it's just and she's looks like she's fucking dissociating or something, just staring at this board.
How edgy.
Yeah, and she's not moving, but her friends are scared, so it's clear this movie's about her. Also, the movie's named after her. So.
Right. 2
hints right there. She's the main character.
Okay.
When I started watching it, I did think that Veronica was going to be the name of the ghost, but.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, it's a ghost movie? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so because, they fuck around with the Ouija board, and then she passes out. I'm not summarizing this while I'm getting too into detail, so let me try to, back up a little bit, zoom in out of the movie.
She gets possessed.
Well, no, so she is getting, followed by this spirit.
So
because basically her father's dead, and she was trying to contact her father. Right. And so when she starts seeing ghosts and shadows and stuff, she thinks it's her dad at first. And then
second mistake.
Yeah, and so her mom is
it's a ghost
gone,
you can trust.
Works all the time, so she takes care of her little siblings, and they all start seeing this ghost, and so they're just getting haunted, and it's a haunting movie, but it is based on a real event that is actually the first time in they are in Vallecas, Madrid, and so this is the first time that a police report in Madrid has referenced paranormal activity because the cops were like, we just don't have an explanation for what is happening here. But so the movie follows Veronica being haunted. So that's not super how this story goes. It's not even a little how this story goes, actually. I'm not.
It's very loosely based.
It's pretty loosely based, but I think the guy who created the movie or whatever, I mean, he said it was very loosely based on it. But so it was early in 1990 when. I should tell you the girl's name is not Veronica that it's about. Her name is Estefania. I don't even know how to say Gutierrez Lazaro. I don't know.
You speak Spanish the best of all of us, so I'm going to go with your pronunciation.
You can just say her name all day. Sorry.
And so
it's a beautiful name.
It really is. And so she was 18 when this happened, but so early in 1990 is when they noticed like this change in her behavior. So where before she was a pretty normal teenager, now she starts suffering from hallucinations and convulsions.
Okay.
And so it says in an instant she would burst into rages, barking, growling, and hissing at her brothers. And she told her family that she saw shadows walking around her room at night.
Okay.
Yeah. So they took her to a doctor, of course, and she stayed in a hospital for a long time, but starting in 1991. So this went on for, and this was August of 1991. So this started in early 1990. So they waited almost 2 years, or like a year and a half before they took her to a doctor. But they couldn't find anything wrong with her. They didn't diagnose her with anything, but she was still having these like hallucinations. And then her seizures started getting like worse and stronger. And then after about 3 weeks, she died. But there were no like wounds or like really indication of how she died. I've seen two separate things. One said that she had a heart attack, and the other one
at 18.
Well, she would have been like 19 or 20 at this point. But yeah, I mean, still like, you know, surprisingly young for having had a heart attack. The other account I read just said that she had heart and lung failure, which again, odd for an 18-year-old. And so in a couple articles, they mentioned, not with super consistent details, but the one, what I tried to do was read a lot of articles about this and then figure out which details were the most consistent.
Right.
I think is the best way to tell this story.
Yeah.
Because some of it, of course, has to be
urban legend.
Yeah,
rumor.
of course. Yeah.
Right.
And I could not get a hold of the police reports, which maybe I just didn't spend enough time researching.
You can get a hold of the like.
But yeah, well, I might. I don't know how Spain's. You know what I mean? Like I could find police reports here pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I was saying like from Madrid. Like
that's what I was saying. I don't know if it's even possible for me to do it from here or how if theirs are private or whatever.
Right.
I don't know any of that. So I put in like a general effort and then was like, it would take me a long time to translate it anyway.
Right.
So, yeah. So I just looked up these explanations of the story. But anyway, so before she died, the general consensus is that she and two friends did sneak into the basement of her school to use a Ouija board.
Right.
But they're actually trying to contact the boyfriend of a different friend who had just passed away in a motorcycle accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they were trying to talk to that guy.
And it turned out that a girl who had no connection to... Yeah. Okay, so the movie is a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made her, they made her the central character. They were caught when they were also using, so this part was the same in every story. They were using the glass as the marker to spell out the words and stuff, and it broke. But then a few seconds later, smoke from nowhere was said to have like come up over them and then flown into Estefania's face. And then that was, and like a couple said it like went directly up her nose, but yeah.
That's kind of fucking creepy though.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah. So that's all. None of that can be substantiated because this is not even when the police report started.
Right.
So that this is all sort of, I try to get the best idea of what happened before she died, because the real the real haunting aspect, if that's what it is, happened after she died. When her parents and siblings went back home, they started experiencing I don't even know what you can say other than like paranormal activity.
Right.
Right? Like so it started out with stuff like they would hear like echoing laughter just throughout the house, and then it would the laughter would start like nice and pleasant and this is funny, and then just get like progressively more hysterical and like turn into crying. Yeah. Which is like terrifying.
Only slightly
That's
disturbing and
they would hear like things that sounded like fists hitting the walls, lights, would turn on and off, appliances, televisions on and off. And so that went on for a while, but then eventually like physical things started happening. So things like doors would open and close by themselves, cabinets, stuff like that.
Right.
In an effort to stop the doors from opening and closing all the time, they rearranged the furniture in like their sitting room so that they had like a sofa up against a door that would open and shut all the time. So shortly after they did that, the whole family was out of the room, heard what sounded like a large gust of wind in the sitting room, went back in there, and the door was open and the sofa had been toppled.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So it's a strong ghost.
Right. So
that's what you want.
Is like a key scene in the movie. What this next part is based on. But the door busting open like that, knocking over the sofa, knocked a photo of Estefania onto the floor from a shelf. And when the mother went to go pick it up, she dropped it because it had set on fire underneath the glass.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's spontaneous combustion, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That is a phenomena that literally should not happen.
Yeah.
There's no science behind that.
No. Yeah. So then there
not any real science to this.
Right.
Well, there's plenty of pseudoscience behind it, yeah.
So after this like particular, obviously I think memorable event, they started seeing like humanoid creatures moving around the house.
Oh God.
So this is a quote from one of Estefania's sisters. We heard a whistling sound like on other nights and then a groan near the door. We were so scared we were frozen. It was then we noticed something on the floor as the light from the streetlights would enter our bedroom and light it up. It was the shape of a man crawling, dragging itself on the floor. He had a black head, no eyes, no mouth, nothing. It was crawling towards us and we started to scream. It was then that the toys we had on a shelf started being thrown violently toward the other wall, one by one, and then we heard bangs and shouts. So at this point, the mother like runs into their room and they mentioned that it looked like they had been playing with toys for hours, that the toys from the shelves were all just spread across the room, but there was no person there. So in November of 1992, they called the police at 2:40 in the morning because there were bangs and noises in the house. I don't know what was so different about these that made them...
They have to call the police.
Yeah, versus
finally this time.
Yeah, versus what they'd already been living with.
Seeing a faceless man crawling across the floor, that's just a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But right? But these particular bangs and noises,
and it could have just been like the last straw. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like maybe they could have just needed confirmation.
Been going on for a year.
Yeah, like this is happening to us. Somebody else see this, please. So I mean, it could have just been that, which I think is fair. So this is a quote from the police report. We were sat with the family. You could see and hear how a perfectly shut cupboard door would open and shut. We checked the door. It was perfect. It moved in an anti-natural way. Moments later, we saw how a tablecloth on a small telephone table was becoming stained by a brown substance that the inspector identified as drool-like. When we checked the bedrooms of the window, we saw how a wooden cross spun upside down and the metal Christ upon it was ripped off. One of the daughters then placed the cross behind the door on the poster. Then in the same moment, there appeared 3 nail marks, scratches on the poster. So since this started, the family had tried like priests and exorcisms on the house, stuff like that. They've already done that.
Well, you want to go with the tried and true methods before you call the police.
Right. But
hey, that's
I hear
the
you.
thing. We're saving lives by involving the church. Really.
Yeah.
And then this is another quote from the police when he was interviewed by the local news about this story. He tells him about an experience he had when he went into Estefania's bedroom. It was a small bedroom with twin beds. The father told us that sometimes when he and his little son were sitting on the bed, his son was picked up and thrown onto the other bed in a flying move. I sat down in the bedroom to see if anything would happen. We heard a terrible scream behind us, which came from a small balcony. I quickly opened the door and ran out to see if I could see anything, but there was nothing. No fallen stones, nothing. It was 2:30 in the morning, and the noise was dreadful. When I'd first entered the room, I noticed they had a large wooden crucifix on the wall, and hanging off it was a smaller, pearly crucifix like the one children get at their first Holy Communion. There was also a poster. Oh, sorry, this is the same. He's referring to the same incident.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but a few moments later, the crucifix had been turned upside down. The little crucifix was on the floor, and the poster in the door had 3 or 4 scratches deep in them, as if somebody had clawed through the poster and deep into the door.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also mention of, he says the part about the no fallen stones, and I think I read somewhere else that they heard the scream outside,
Right.
and tried to get out there first, but they heard what sounded like a boulder fall onto the balcony.
Okay.
And then roll off. And so that's when he mentions no falling stone, is because when they were finally able to get out onto the balcony, they thought something was falling towards a person, and like they saw it and screamed, and then it hit the balcony and then continued to fall. But when they went outside, there was nothing. No person, no stones.
Spoopy.
It's too spooky for me.
So pretty much after this, though, the family moved out of that house, and they've said that they've never experienced that haunting again.
It's the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also saw another thing, and this wasn't like substantiated anywhere else, but I did see where before Veronica was messing around with the Ouija board, her grandmother had recently passed away, and apparently her last words were, "I will still do damage." And then she died, and then Veronica was messing with the Ouija board, and then pretty much I'm calling her Veronica. Estefania. Yeah. Estefania was messing around with the Ouija board. And so I think like the general idea, and this may be the urban legend part of it, but is that Estefania's grandmother possessed her, and then when Estefania died, because then she was doing damage, right? And so when she died, now the two of them were haunting and doing damage. Because another thing that they would hear often is loud cackling laughter as if from an old woman, and then also a young girl yelling for her mom. Yeah.
Creepy.
So that's the story behind Veronica. Somehow scarier than the movie Veronica.
That honestly, yeah.
That movie was real good, though.
Yeah.
Right there at the ending.
I do suggest that one. My based on a true story, the movie was garbage. Yours,
very good.
Yeah.
Incredible movie.
Yeah.
The acting was, and for it being mostly 3 young children and 1 teenage girl.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I guess she could have been older. I mean, she's an actress,
like an independent film too, not even like a large studio production or anything.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
It is one of 12 movies I've seen in my lifetime. And I cannot recommend it enough.
Well, hey, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Patrick.
So my story is about the movie Tag.
Nice.
Yeah. It's, if you haven't seen the movie, it's who is it? Ed Helms,
Jeremy Renner.
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not from MASH though.
Mark Ham.
John Hamm.
Oh, John Hamm. Yeah, John Hamm.
Mark Hamill.
No.
No.
But anyway, they've been playing a game of tag since they were in elementary school, is what they said, in the movie. And like that one guy has never been it the whole time, and it's like we're only going to play this. This year is the year we're going to get him, and hilarity ensues, but also at the same time, like it turns a little sad because like Ed Helms' character. Spoilers.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so this is spoilers for me.
Oh, I want to know because I want to know the story, but I don't want to watch the movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, in the movie, Ed Helms is the reason that he wants to do like this game of tag is because he may not be able to play next year because he's dying.
Oh.
So like that's the whole reason bring them together. However, that didn't happen in this. In the actual story, they were.
It's just happy, right?
It is.
It's just happy.
It's just about
Wait,
guys
does Ed
playing tag.
Helms' character die though?
No, the end of the movie ends with all of them playing tag through a hospital to the song "Running."
Oh my gosh!
It's really cool. Also at the same time,
cry.
like before, like they talk about in the movie how like no girls were allowed to play, and at the end of the movie they let the wives join in.
Aww.
It's whatever, but it's pretty
cute.
cool. So the story was actually like it's in the Wall Street Journal. This Russell Adams found all this out in 2013. the article talks. The story is basically, what's it? Not 10 people have been playing this fucking game of tag for 23 years.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It started in 1980. Where was it? Hang on, sorry. Like 1982. Yeah, and they started playing in high school, as opposed to like elementary school, because that's when they said they were playing it. And they started playing in high school, and one guy, it was like the last day of their senior year, or whatever. 1982. He's heading into the last day of school, and he was and he was gonna tag somebody, but the friend got tipped off, so he was sitting in his parents' car with the doors locked and he couldn't get into them. So he was for the end of it. Like, they weren't gonna play it afterwards. He was forever. So they met back up about 8 years later, so like 90s, and they're like talking about it, and the guy who was was like, hey, so we should play tag again for like 1 month out of the year. And they're like, okay. And so they made a participation agreement, which I wish would come up, because I was going to read that whole, like, this is how you do a game of tag for 1 month out of the year if you wanted to do that. And so I just lost my story. No, it's right there. Oh, well, it's because I have to now subscribe. That's stupid. Fuck you, Wall Street Journal. Sorry. Print is dying, and I understand why you have to pay for things. So essentially, they just start. The article then talks about like just elaborate ways they've tagged each other. During the entire month of February, one guy who's like in charge, like he's a big executor, he tells the security like, "Hey, don't let anybody in to see me." Like, at all. That's like how paranoid they are. There was literally, they've told coworkers like, don't let anybody in ever. One guy is a priest. Like, they also all moved like to different parts of the country. So one of them is a priest, and he lives in Montana, and they're thinking about trying to get him because he's just a sitting duck on Sundays. Yeah. But yeah, there's also apparently like YouTube videos of them getting each other. They elaborately dress up. At the end of the movie Tag, they actually show like clips of it. One is this guy was dressed as a nun, and he just like starts running for a guy. Yeah. There was one they talk about in the article. There was a time where one of the guys climbed into the trunk of the guy's car, and then like waited for him to open it. And his wife had come out. The guy who was getting Tag's wife came out and then startled her so much that she fell backwards and tore a ligament.
Oh my
Like,
God.
Yeah. He's like, I felt really bad about that. But then there's times where like it didn't work out. So one guy had moved somewhere across. Now that I've lost the article, I can't say exactly where. Moved somewhere, and so the guy flew out the last weekend and just staked him out the whole time. And the guy had gone out of town without even realizing it. And he was like,
oh no.
He's like, the guy who was supposed to get tagged was like, if I would have known, I would have literally just sacrificed getting tagged so that I could hang out with him. Because it's been keeping them together over these 23 years, more than anything else. So, but
That's so fun.
That's awesome.
Speaking of, though, you're no tag backs.
Oh, damn it.
I was going to ask about the tag back rule.
There is, so that was the big thing. In the movie, they talk about, like, there's a bunch of different agreements. One of the things is, like, you can't, like, punch people in the butt. Like, that's, like, comedy, like,
it's like
wise.
a rule that, like, they created after it happened.
Yeah, like, after it happened, like, there's amendments.
Addendum 7.
Yeah.
No butt punching.
Well, and they that's the thing in the movie, too, is, like, they talk about these amendments, and they all have to, like, agree on the amendments. So then if the amendment's not all agreed on, they don't do it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I started, after that movie, like, was coming out and everything, I started a game of tag at work, and it was fun. And then it died because nobody wanted to play it anymore. But you're it.
I am it. Yeah, that's true. With no tag backs. So
No tag backs.
I won't try and tag you right now, Ann. Don't worry. I will wait until you least suspect it.
It's better. It is a lot more fun when you just, like, plan them out and get elaborate with them. My favorite thing
like
was always
hiding in the trunk of the car.
Yeah, or one guy was like, he was at a baseball game. The guy was like walking around the corner, didn't even realize it. And he was like, ah, and he was like, ah. But it was pretty cool.
That's so fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's a better way to end than a scary story about
that
us.
is, yes. We had pretty good variety though. We had like
We all did movies, though.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Well,
We
you
didn't
know,
do like books. Or...
not a whole lot of books are
Are
based on
the
true
true
stories
story.
without
It's
being a
usually the true
nonfiction book.
yeah.
Yeah,
True.
that is
True.
fair.
We also didn't decide to do real life stories. I almost did.
Well, no story from my actual life has ever been turned into a book or a movie. Yeah,
that you know of.
That's true.
I'm
That's
actually
true.
like a secretly very successful author.
It's well, I was about to say it's like it's just
Under
the
your
Ahmed.
pen name,
It's
J.K.
just the Ahmed
Rowling.
thing.
What?
Under your pen name,
J.K. Rowling, yeah.
Yeah, the entire story of Cursed Child is actually about me.
Oh, interesting. Hey, well, thank you guys for being on the show today.
Hey,
You're so very
always.
welcome.
Yeah. And listeners,
Literally.
thanks for
Always
tuning
call me onto the show.
in. You'll be here again in like 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. So listeners, thanks for checking us out this week. And, make sure you follow us on the internet, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Anti-Fiction-Cast. Andy has been running those, and they're running, much more interestingly than they were when-
Nice. Way to be a social
there's
media
more
person.
I
memes
know.
and like shit, and if you know how to
Wait.
delete a Facebook that we accidentally created, then please
Let us know.
because we accidentally created a second Facebook.
He's saying we. It was very much me. I'm
Well,
an idiot.
Look,
Listen, I'm
it's
trying
really
to
easy.
share the
You just
blame.
go to settings and you delete it.
I can't. I've tried.
And if you've got questions, comments, concerns, listeners, you can always email us at antifictioncast@gmail.com. Please let us know how to delete a Facebook page we accidentally made. And we'll see you next week.
Real talk, though, are those memes that you make just anti-fiction memes? Like they're about the podcast?
No.
That's what...
Well, some. I'll show you.
Content.
Listen.
I
You
need
should take
all
that
of that
picture of me
content.
that you made. Like you took a picture of me at a sound check, and like
Do you want me to make that to a meme?
make it into a meme. Like
make it
Just
something.
use all of
Like-
the meme formats for this show.
yeah, there you go. Just like Photoshop my face onto the new Pikachu meme.
It's not real hard. You just take a picture of him and then make a sticker in Snapchat.
In Snapchat.
And then you can
I
use
use
them all.
Snapchat to make all my memes.
Oh, I have so many good stickers that I have to show you.
All right, well, listen, we need to cut the episode off, guys. Hey, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.